Hi, Rick Harsh, coronasums.press. I just got back from Ljubljana, where our printer is. They just got done printing this really beautiful novella by Zachary Tanner called Some Features of Living Matter in the Neighborhood of the Sun. And the title is almost as long as the novella. Let me check. I haven't seen it. I haven't read any of it. And Zach Tanner writes so much stuff for us in his lengthy novel, Oscar Submerges, is one of our best sellers. So I thought, okay, why do I have to see this? He's in charge of the cover, although somebody else did the cover. Let me give credit for that to edited for print by Amélie Desormeaux, cover art by Zoe Darlington, and so I thought it'd be interesting to read fresh the opening of the book. It has an epigraph by Kate Chopin from The Awakening, which is a book that I really love, which goes like this. It was something which announced itself, a chill breath that seemed to issue from some vast cavern wherein discords wailed. There came over her the acute longing which always summoned into her spiritual vision the presence of the beloved one, overpowering her at once with a sense of the unattainable. That's nice. So here's how the book starts. I'm just going to read until there's a natural break. Okay? That calm, familiar twiddly-twoo, twiddle-we-twoo capsized Maisy's stomach, a painted bunting sounding from the concealment of moss-bent cypress and live oak and wild hibiscus, the 15-foot flat-bottom boat Camellia's motor having whined loudly before ceasing, such that this serene stimulus aslant the sun, the call of a flying feathered dropcloth, a divine sprite if ever one flew, most ironically was the very thing they'd one day look back on and mutually perceive as the beginning of such an episode as often befalls those who lightly undertake excursions deep into Mother Nature. The first misstep on one of those fabled near-death accidents neither would forget, though the two, parent and child, 38 and 19 respectively, would soon be physically separated forever and would spend each their own time and significant self-work energy and therapy to develop healthy ways of coping with each's own parallel universal revelations about the distance between worlds, the nearness of death, the depth of the human heart, and the mystical power of memory. How strange we should hear the bomb after it has gone off. Something we set our hearts so unflinchingly, sometimes, first time I read it, sometimes we set our hearts so unflinchingly on something like Artemis and Puppy had on this much-needed vacation, parent and Sprague traveling alone together for the first time in 6 years. We want it so badly we don't pay as close attention as we otherwise would, and we will not stop to consider our endeavor until we have been left dripping in our own latent daydreams like Icarus, liquid feathers, and raining skin. Whoop, that didn't sound good. I think they're Southerners, so I'm not a Southerner. Did you hear it whine? Yep, Poppy said, walking astern. Not to worry, Misma. I think it's just something caught up in the props. Rancho Fucamonga, Maisie said, taking a drink of water at the stainless steel helm. Just when we were getting some hoo-ha. Yeah, that's definitely Southern. Almost 40 and recently divorced after being widowed in her first marriage, My Z had been looking forward to this for several weeks now. One last trip to the artificial floating homestead where Poppy had been born and raised, anticipating this journey in the way only someone who has been widowed, suffered, found love again, and lost it to someone else can crave a little wholesome, platonic, familial affection of the sort Jane Austen liked to write about, such that now as she sipped her water it at once bespoke someone having a rocky, portentous start to a long-anticipated journey, and also release, catharsis, the sigh she could now take to be floating alone, stranded in a boat with her only living blood relative, the person she loved most in the world, who for now was still here. And on days like today, we need not dwell on the future. Hugging the outside of the aluminum hull higher than the lowest part of it, the gliding surface of the brown water reflected their faces back up to them on either side of the solar electric engine. Poppy's arm came up from below the muck with a handful of net. Got your knife, kid? Whoops. Gamma would love to see it. What do you say we use the trolling motor to get us up ahead, somewhere we can dock and get it up out of the water instead of wasting time fussing with it here? We need to stop to suit up soon anyway. Maybe we can get an early lunch while we see it's up, bent up or loosened anything. Might as well check the radar while we get a bite and see if it's better. If it looks like it's coming our way, maybe we can just stay the night somewhere close to here. No way! We have to go home. It's the safest place to ride out the storm. What are you saying? You're right. Well, let's get some food and we'll see. If the engine's okay, we should be there in just over an hour. That should be plenty of time. How far are we? About 20 miles. Not 15 minutes ago, they'd gotten a bulletin from the National Weather Service. 10:15 a.m. CST alert, a tropical storm watch has been issued in your area. This news had soured their plans to take their time crabbing on the way out to the camp, but it wouldn't be the end of the trip. For the past several decades, the Gulf Coast had been prone to seemingly instantaneous tropical systems that developed not far off the shore and could sweep in and just sit there drowning a whole town, which wasn't their concern, as they were on a boat. But anyone who has ever been on a boat, any boat, in the rain, will know the different sort of fear resonating their spinal cords. Branch of fuckamonga. Ha! I'm going to be the first person to say fuck a monkey on Mars. They laughed together. Poppy looking back at Maisie from their perch at the prow. Artemis raised her voice against the humid wind. Have I ever told you how much you look like Kizzy when you make that face? What face? That face. Poppy blushed. You'd make her proud, Mies Moo said. Just look at you, I'm proud of you. Don't you forget that. Look, I can handle it. If you want to really talk about it, we're bound to, so why don't we just have it out with it? You're the one who brought it up, boo, but just, look, there's nothing today that matters except being here with you. I love you. I love you, Mom. Pattsville, check it out. Do you remember going to Crimped Cove when you were little? I remember the pizza parties and the bear that scared me so much and the banana spiders. They slowed through a residential no-wake zone. This floating neighborhood, Pattsville, was familiar to both of them, a landmark on the way to the camp when you were coming from New Orleans as the last landlocked settlement to gas up and grab a bite to eat. The camellia drifted down the middle of the bayou, and Poppy took it in, breathing deeply of the earth. On either bank stood plot after plot of artificially raised houses, varied in their structural adaptations, architectural styles, and homestead accoutrements, in such a way that it was no special anomaly to see a two-story house in the Dutch style, surrounded by a cypress veranda and 40-foot dock. Nothing out of the ordinary, with a one-story Cajun cottage with a 4-story turret in the backyard. These families had lived here since before Poppy had been born, and generationally, homesteads stayed within families. In lavish gardens and along property lines grew ragweed, wisteria, magnolia, morning glory, cattails, palmettos, pine, cedar, maple, and thick banana trees and bamboo as natural fencing. Over the glossy brown bayou there was a breeze that brushed the greenish life against itself, pondering, abstracting the life of plants, one of the greatest joys of being a human, Poppy reflected. I got one more page, you'll see. I got 4 minutes. It was nice to have a cool gust now as the sun beat down noticeably hotter every 15 minutes on its way to zenith. So it was that Poppy and Mizmu broke a sweat just humming along at 5 miles per hour. In Louisiana, as in many tropical and subtropical climes around the world these days, it was a good idea in the summer months to wear a dune-like body-cooling suit from mid-morning until just after sunset, especially if you were staying outside for an extended period of time. On some days, it was a matter of life and death. As they entered Old Pattsville, the highly individualized homesteads, each small plot unique in its architectural and lived-in idiosyncrasy, gave way to more homogeneous-looking buildings, the residential acreage transitioning into a commercial township just before the open water, the docks of the old sugar mill and the loading wharves behind the market, from between the rusty parade barricade bars of which lolled the tired faces of old dogs. As if traveling forward into the town, they were also traveling back in time to pre-Balkanized North America, the long summers of Poppy's innocence. Mizmu walked up the middle of the boat to the front bench so that she could be within earshot of Poppy. They smiled at one another and enjoyed a moment of not needing to say anything in particular, just because they could now hear each other without raising their voices. Say, do you think we can still get peaches at the market this time of year? Not good ones, 7 years ago maybe. Kind of late for that, but the pears will still be divine. Maybe we can get some after lunch. I think we better get this settled first, then we can think about it. I'd hate to dawdle with this storm coming in. What's this one now? This the back of the Emporium? Yeah, if you stand up, you can probably see the big green sign. I can tell from the green on the back. That's what made me think, well, that and just trying to picture being on the street again. I'm sorry we didn't have more time. Maybe we should have planned to stay here for a night, catch an airboat ride and a fay-do-do. Fay-do-do. Gotta ask Zach about that. No, it'd really be too much. I shouldn't have brought up the peaches, Poppy said. It's okay you brought up the peaches, and it's okay to wish we had more time. And it's okay to know that because of parallel circumstances, well, we have to be okay with not having more time with one another very soon during the very moment of finally finding a little time for ourselves. I love you. I really needed this. Life really does come up, doesn't it? I need it too, baby, Artemis said. Artemis. Once it starts, it doesn't stop. It just gets louder and more complicated. I see why the peaches might make you sad. I reckon they won't have those. Well, lab peaches, sure. Just about any fruit you want we can grow in the biodome, but Louisiana peaches, no. What if you brought a seed? You can take the peach out of Louisiana, but you can't take Louisiana out of the peach, or one's taste of it, if you grew up here, you know. Well, you'll remember home, even cut off like you'll be. You'll always have that association, even if you forget it. Is that really how you see it, cut off? No, I didn't mean it like that. More of a, well, I've never signed up to go to Mars. You were also never recruited. Well, even if I had been, I wouldn't have. Whatever means. It's okay for me to be a little sad. It is. I guess it just makes me uncomfortable. Okay, I'll stop talking about it. Oh shit, I just went over the 15-minute mark. Are we almost at the wharf? That's the 15-minute mark is the wharf. Don't ever forget that. Let's see if this will upload.